podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the 1905 podcast. Each week, Joe and I bring you our unfiltered takes on the highs, the lows, and everything in between, following the Blues from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes. Oh, man alive. What have we just watched? Chelsea won, Burnley won, and 6 matches now in the league this season that Chelsea have got a red card. And as I've said on this podcast before, not only is that obviously in itself, ridiculous and horrendous. Bear in mind, we've only played 27 games this season. So you're not far off a quarter of games. Chelsea have gone down to 10 men. But just for every single one of them has been match defining at key moments of the game and very often kind of inexcusable, and I don't think that one is far different. Let's start there because it's the kind of key moment of the game. Wes Fofana, the first one was worse, actually. The first yellow card that he got was just, it was stupid. As soon as it happened, I was like, what are you doing? Like, you had no chance of winning the ball. It wasn't even a particularly dangerous situation in the first half. It was when Burnley were on the attack. And there were about 5 players covering across, and you just thought, don't do that. And then he gets a silly yellow, fair enough. Right call from the ref. A ref who, by the way, I thought looked well out of his depth genuinely in the game, but we can't blame him for the red card, in fairness. And then the second yellow card, you obviously know you're on a yellow card. You're meant to be, one of the experienced defenders out there, believe it or not. You're the guy we spent 70 million on, and just goes in over the ball, misses it. And again, in itself, that can happen. A player on the edge trying to win the ball, doing his bit. But when you're on a yellow card, use your brain and just know when to pull out and when not to go. That isn't hard to do. And it completely changed the tide of the game. And we've seen it so many times this season. Obviously, we're experienced at it. And unfortunately, one thing I want to say is we're not good at managing a game with 10 men at all. There's many era of Chelsea I've seen play very well with 10 men, win games with 10 men from a drawing position. This Chelsea team, as soon as we went to 10 men, it was like we had 8 men. Everyone behind the ball. We basically didn't mount another attack for 20 plus minutes. And unfortunately, I don't know how everyone else felt watching it, but it just felt inevitable. There was no part of me really that believed we could hold on. Honestly, as soon as it happened, I was like, we're going to concede. And the only hope was that somehow we blag our way through it and the time eventually runs out. But the time seemed to go in half speed watching it. And it came from a corner, which in itself isn't really inexcusable because there's no real excuse for having a man down on the corner. Yet another goal, by the way, conceded from a set piece. And the defending on it was horrendous. No one marking him. A free header. And the only saving grace was that they didn't score from the corner they had, 2 minutes later, when it was another free header, and actually arguably an easier header, and he put it over the bar, and really we came away with a point when we could have had none. Just so disappointing, and all the progress that we've felt and we've been seeing that we're making under Liam Rosenior has just gone back to our biggest problem all season, which is in home games, being too passive, not closing out games when you have to, and letting them drift. And in the Premier League, you just can't get away with doing that. It doesn't matter who you're playing, Burnley, Leeds, whoever. If you let teams stay in the game, you'll drop points. And we've done it time and time again. A ridiculous number of points dropped from winning positions, particularly at home. And if we don't get Champions League this season, and it's still a long way to go, let's not get too drastic on that, I think Villa look like they're struggling. They obviously needed a late equaliser from Tammy to rescue a point today. They're running on fumes a little bit. There's a long way to go in the season, but if we don't get Champions League, it'll be all our own doing from dropping points from crazy positions. I had sort of planned to come on, with 20 minutes to go and talk about the game in general and performances and stuff. It's a little bit hard to do that, to be completely honest, because I'm just feeling pretty deflated. But let's pick out a few things. I mean, the first thing to say is it's quite well publicised that Liam Rosenior gave the players a few days off after the whole game, and most of them I think like all of them went to Dubai on holiday together to get some sun and some rest. It felt like they were still on the beach, didn't it, in that first half? We really came out. I mean, we obviously got a great goal, which I'll talk about in a second, but apart from that, it was at us at our worst, wasn't it, in terms of being passive, slow. Rob Sanchez putting sort of heart in your mouth moments every time he seems to be playing out. It looked all over the place at times at the back. It just all felt a bit stodgy and a bit crap, to be honest. And rather than coming in from that holiday feeling like, okay, we're ready to go, all guns blazing again, it was anything but. And to be honest, the whole game, give Burnley their credit, they always felt like they were in the game. They really were. And ironically, probably our best spell of the game came just before the red card, when it felt like, actually at that point, a second goal felt inevitable. But yeah, it was not to be. The goal itself was brilliant. It was a really well worked goal. I mean, Andre Santos doing what we've talked about, he keeps doing again and again, which is move the ball forward quickly. Just little balls, always moving it forward. It was his pass through to Caicedo. Caicedo then played a worldie of a pass through to Pedro Neto. Great ball across from Pedro Neto. And yeah, I mean, João Pedro, more luck than judgment. I think the way the ball went in, it kind of bobbled off his foot onto his knee and then over the line just about. It wasn't vintage, but he absolutely take it. And there aren't many. I can't think of too many positive performances today, but I did write down at one point that João Pedro, I felt, was basically playing like the centre forward that we've been crying out for him to be. Just always in and around the box, in the areas that you want him to be getting chances. That goal kind of sums it up. He had a header from a corner in the second half that was inches over, and again, he's just in the right place to get on the end of things. He's the guy that they're often playing off in the box. He just looks a different player. He looks a really, really good centre forward for us now. And I don't know whether it's Liam Rosenior getting in his head. I don't know whether it's actually having Cole Palmer so he doesn't feel like he has to drop into those deeper positions. Whatever it is, he's a different player. And if he carries on like this, you kind of look at it again, maybe Chelsea don't need a new striker in the market because he really has been so good in the last, 2 months. He's been that good. So that he was a positive, and the goal was great. There wasn't a huge amount more in the first half to shout about. The only one really was Cole Palmer's chance where he gets on the ball from a Kyle Walker mistake, and you just, to be honest, Cole's got to do better there with his ability. He shoots really early, which looks great if you score, but if you don't, just looks a bit stupid, to be honest. And he had so many other things he could have done, but the main thing was just carry it into the box. Kyle Walker is not the pace merchant he once was. He'd got himself the right side of the goal, Palmer, so the way that Kyle Walker could stop him really was probably to foul him. But he shot really early, straight down the gullet of the keeper, really comfortable save, and you're kind of looking at that, and again, any second goal would have probably made it a different afternoon for us. In the second half, as I said, I actually thought we came out and were playing fairly well at that point. And not that I was relaxed, because it wasn't an enjoyable watch, and you could feel it in the ground. It was nervy. It was a bit stodgy. It wasn't great, but you did feel at that point most likely it was Chelsea's second goal. But through a little bit of slightly too relaxed at times, slightly too casual, I would say. There were a couple of moments. There was one where Palmer went through, but he could have shot himself played it to Neto. Neto was a little bit slow, took a touch, and then it was blocked. He hit it well. I think it was flying in, but it was just a really good chance to score. We didn't. There was one that Gusto went through, and it really wound me up because he tried to do a no-look pass, where again, you're like, look, we need a second goal. Stop fucking around. Just put the ball in the net, and then you can do your party tricks later. That came to nothing, and it just all felt a bit. And then, of course, as soon as the red card happens, you just feel the oxygen taken out of the ground, and yeah, it all felt too inevitable, didn't it? We've seen it against Leeds, we've seen it against Brighton this season, we've seen it against Sunderland. It's these games where you just look at and think, well, Chelsea have to win this, and we are throwing points away and gifting it like it's confetti. It's so annoying. There's a lot more to I think take away from the game that we will do in terms of performances, and I'm going to be really interested to kind of hear what Liam Rosini has to say about it and how he fronts it up. I'm looking for him to come out and be honest and say it wasn't good enough and give us a bit more than Maresca has been at times this season. But yeah, that one is undoubtedly a really bad 2 points dropped, and as you can hear in my voice, very disappointing.
I think we need to have it right here. Chelsea's lack of discipline and their lack of mentality in holding onto a lead, particularly at home, has really become farcical. It's actually not funny anymore. It's a real problem. And I've just been informed from one of the members of our WhatsApp group, Dave, there, he's just made a great stat, which is we haven't beaten any of the newly promoted teams at home this season. And quite frankly, that's a disgrace in itself. Now, Chelsea have no divine right to beat anybody. I've said that a few times on the podcast, but you have to ask questions when you're paying big salaries, big fees for players. You know, you have promising young players coming through your incredibly talented academy. You know, this cannot keep happening at this level, and I don't know when they're going to learn. This has been too many times now, and it's the way it keeps happening. And I'm going to start with the goal that Burnley scored. I think Chris did the same just now. There will be people out there that will go, Joe, wasn't Tosin's fault. Right. You've got a 6'5", I think he's 6'5", centre-back marking the front area of that position in the penalty box. He's roughly on the 6-yard box, edge of the 6-yard box. He's there for a reason. He doesn't attack the ball. And it is so frustrating. That is your one and only job. I ask you as a Chelsea supporter, do you think Tosin's going to get the ball on the edge of the box, dribble past three people and slide a pass in for João Pedro to score a goal? Absolutely fucking not. What Tosin's job is to do is to mark that front area. The ball basically skims his head because he gets a little touch from the Burnley player, and that's enough to put him off, and the guy runs in and heads it in the goal. What I will say, Tosin's not the only one at fault here. I believe that's André Santos, who basically is standing on he's roughly on the penalty spot, maybe a yard or two in front of it. He runs off of him and he just stands there looking around. Now, you can argue that Santos is a younger player, maybe his lack of experience in not that Burnley's a big game, but in a Premier League game sometimes hampers you. We've had a man sent off, so we're getting drawn further and further into our own penalty box, and the pressure suddenly tells. But Santos is also, in my opinion, at fault there. Tosin does not attack that ball, and if he was 5 foot, I'd be like, that's not Tosin's fault. That is your one and only job. Head the fucking thing as far away as possible. Chelsea don't seem to care enough about these points, and I'm not going to blame Liam Rosini for this. I'm not going to even really speak about the manager. I don't think Chelsea played particularly well today. I think they did enough to score a few more goals, and they had lots of the ball. Burnley didn't really do a lot until the last, 15 minutes, let's be fair. But in that last 15 minutes, in credit to Burnley, they could have scored a couple of goals, and Chris mentions the one where they score and then nearly score straight again afterwards. I think they had a couple of headers and from free kicks from James Ward-Prowse just before that as well. And if you look at the map and the graph at the sending off point, Chelsea are in full control. It's basically Burnley don't have a kick of the ball. The moment that Fofana gets himself sent off, it is completely the other way. Like Chelsea don't even have a little bit of the ball. It's like all Burnley. And it's alarming. It's alarming. At what point is this team going to stick their chest out and put their arms out and say, okay, we've lost a man, but there's only 15 minutes to go. We're at home. We are a far superior team to them. We have to have bottle. We have to have mental toughness, some grit. And I don't care what anybody says. I'm not interested in anyone else's opinion on this. We cannot be sucked back into our own penalty area by Burnley at home. That just can't happen. I wouldn't expect it if we played them away from home. It's not good enough. It's absolute, and this is on the players. This is all on the players. I'm sorry, I'm not having that this is a Liam Rosenior thing and he made a mistake today. And I'm not defending Rosenior. I'm not going to come out here and just defend him for everything. But I'm sorry, that turning point in the game, players and coaches, they practice for this. This is something they will practice for maybe on a daily basis, but there'll be times in the season where they'll be like, right, okay, scenario, this has happened. How do we prepare for it? What are we going to do? We're going to bring on a defender. We're going to bring on a striker. Whatever it is, something will be in place for this. And I'm sorry, the decision to bring Tosin on, I didn't agree with. I still don't agree with it because he's not good enough for this football club. I just don't know how many times I can say it. I just don't know. Fofana, okay, I've said this a few times recently. I said it about Trev Chalobah as well. They're not good enough. And decisions like the one he made for the second yellow card is idiotic. And what I really enjoyed was the fact that he smiled all the way going off the field. If I was Reece, I'd want to walk up to him and say, mate, take the fucking smile off your face and get yourself off the pitch, you dickhead. That's what I want to say. But no, we this constant like, oh, the referee's done me hard there. No, he hasn't. It's a stupid tackle. It's a stupid tackle, which you didn't need to do. You know you're on a booking. You know the system. You know what happens with VAR. And it wasn't even a VAR decision. It was a referee's decision. And he would have gone anyway, in retrospect. You're over the ball. In today's world, that's a yellow card. And it's a red card and off you go. It just beggars belief that we are still talking about this dumb shit this far into the season. It's staggering me. And I'm not really going to give, Chris has done a really good match preview, a match review there and spoken about most of it. There's no point me going over some of the stuff that we should have done today because ultimately what happens is you didn't take your chances early on. Okay, now you're in a bit of a dogfight. You didn't get your second goal and you're hanging on and you're hanging on and you're hanging on. You get the red card and now it's like, right, okay, what are we going to do? What is this team going to be? Are we going to be a side that's going to go hell for leather, go and catch Aston Villa? Or are we going to be this team that keeps drifting back into the pack? And then sadly, we're drifting right back into the pack again. I can't even look at the league table tonight. I can't even look. I don't even want to bother because I know that Liverpool are going to go win tomorrow. Or tonight. I know that other teams are going to go and get results and we're not. And I'm going to be sitting there going, man, United are such a shit football team. I can't watch them. They're that bad. Liverpool are having one of the worst seasons they've had in years. Newcastle, useless. Aston Villa started really well, had this really, not in the league so much, but they struggled at the very start. They had this huge run of league wins, got themselves into this position, and are now struggling. And what was the icing on the cake? Chelsea conceded a goal against Burnley and Villa go and get an equaliser. And who was it? Tammy fucking Abraham. It's like, oh, you couldn't write this script. Honest to God, I'm just so fed up with this lack of mentality. Chelsea fans, and not just Chelsea fans, but Chelsea fans that I know, a lot of them, you'd be better off looking at your own fucking side and stop saying that Arsenal are bottling the league. Okay, I'd much rather be where Arsenal are than where we are, scamping around in the pissing fucking 5th and 6th place all the time. I'm sick and tired of it. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. And I mean, no disrespect to Burnley. There's no one from Burnley going to listen to this podcast, I wouldn't have thought, okay? But they're not in our league. But we make everybody look good. You know, even for 10 or 15-minute spells, you're going, Burnley are going to win this. I'm sitting there going, they're going to win this. And if that guy heads that ball on target, he probably scores. And you're... I just don't know what else to say about this team. I just don't know. Burnley at home today, I thought, do you know what? This is going to be one of the easiest games of the season. And that's not being arrogant. We've got really good players. But we just somehow continue to shoot ourselves in the foot every single week. We can go on about the Leeds game, okay, and them having a reasonably good performance against Leeds and a 6-minute spell where they go kaput. You cannot concede 2 goals against Leeds United when you're playing that well. You can't give up chances to them, who also are not a very good team, by the way, at home, and then cost yourself another, it cost us 2 points in the end, but cost yourself 4 points in the space of 2 weeks at home against 2 sides that are struggling. It's beggars belief. And you have to start now looking at that transfer business in the summer. Okay, I can come on here and say, do you know what? I think Garnacho is a pretty good player. 40 million quid. I think he's a decent player. He's neat and tidy. He's got a fairly good directness about him, which I like. He scores the odd goal. He creates the odd goal. But he's an all right player. He's an all right player. You look at Mark Guiu and you're going, from Barcelona, 5 million quid. He can't really turn that down. He might turn into something. You can't go fair enough, not bad. But it's still not brilliant. But you kind of go, I can see why you did the business. And you look at other players and you're thinking to yourself, there've been some really good ones. Like, don't get me wrong, like Andre Santos has been a good signing and all the rest of it. But the ones in the summer, when you get rid of Nicholas Jackson and you bring in Liam Delap, for example, I was on the verge last week of going against Hull. I was saying that I think maybe Delap could have turned into a potato waffle, upgrade there. But no, he comes on and it's back to the same old shit from him. And he has a chance at the end and he kicks it fucking out the stand. And you just go, this is what we're dealing with. We said it a few weeks ago, the B team, and I don't like saying it, but the B team that comes on to kind of rectify things isn't good enough. So if João Pedro's having an off day, which he didn't, he had a pretty good game, like Chris said. If Cole Palmer's having an off day, which I think he did have an off day, to be fair, and that chance that Chris mentioned, woof. I mean, that was pretty smelly, to be fair. That wasn't good enough. But if these guys aren't quite at it, you're not getting me excited by bringing on Liam Delap anymore. I was excited at the start of the season. I thought maybe there's something there. But they've done their due diligence. They've shipped off Jackson because they thought maybe he wasn't good enough. But you've got to say, really, I think Nicholas Jackson walks in this team. And if even if he's your first sub, you're like, do you know what? That's a pretty good stuff to bring on. Jackson wants to play from the start. I get that. He's a proud man. He thinks he's a number 9, which is in the peak of his powers. He's kind of growing into the peak of his career. He's coming into, so he's going to want to start. But if you're sort of intermittently going in and out with João Pedro, that's a pretty good one too. But bringing on Mark Guiu and Liam Delap at the moment is just a waste of fucking time. An absolute waste of time. And then you're bringing on Tosin again. I mean, it's just like, come on. Is there a wall? Because I just going to headbutt it. Because I'm sick and tired of seeing this shit. Like, I thought look, one thing I will say about Liam Rosina is, you've got a squad, okay? And he'll say you've got to use these players. And I sort of, to a degree, I understand it. And, I'm not silly. But why not bring Josh on? Again, we're bringing on this big, useless piece of crap. He can't do anything. And the one job he's got is to head the fucking ball away with 2 minutes to go. Head it as far away as humanly possible. But I got a little touch on me and I couldn't jump. Oh, piss off, man. Like, it's so boring. People have got to start waking up to this. It's not good enough. And I'm so frustrated tonight. This isn't kind of after the Leeds game or the Brighton game last year where I was just so annoyed with the performance, the lack of shooting, the lack of crosses, the lack of passing, the lack of desire. It isn't that. This is just purely chucking points away. Chelsea need to get in the Champions League. I think from a financial standpoint, they are banking on getting the Champions League. Because if they don't and they fall back into the Europa League, I think that's going to be a really big financial headache for Chelsea. And the players on the field keep constantly messing up. And I want to see Reece James come out on that TV tonight. I want to see him abuse a few. That's what I want to see. Because John Terry would have come out and said, that's not good enough. We are not doing our job collectively. That is not good enough. But I tell you what would have happened, and I hope this happens, but I tell you what would have happened back then. Chelsea would have gone to Aston Villa and Arsenal in the next 2 games, and they'd have gone and got 6 points for that side. Can you see Chelsea going to Arsenal and Villa and getting 6 points? I mean, I really, really hope they do. But you're just going, how are we going to do that? Because we can't mop up games against Leeds and Burnley at home. How are we going to go there and win? It's just so annoying. And I'm just at my wit's end with coming on here every so often and having to repeat ourselves about certain stuff because the same mistakes keep happening. Do you know what? I quite liked the side. I quite liked it. I looked at the starting lineup and I thought, you know what? It's pretty good. You know, you can't really argue. The one thing I would have said, I didn't want Gusto at left back. I wanted Hasso at left back. Now, I'm not the manager. I don't make those decisions. But for balance, and I think to give that boy some more credit, we've now got to go and say these 2 away games. Then we've got, you know, the Cities and Newcastle's coming up. Give him the confidence to go and play against Burnley. We've seen Gusto at left back. He's crap. He can barely play right back. We played him at left back 4. We've got a natural young lad come from Ajax. He's clearly got talent. Like, he's a very, very good player. If he plays an hour and you bring Gusto on. But no, we go with Gusto again. That did annoy me. I'm like, come on, guys. What are we doing here? He's barely played a game all season. What we have seen of him has been good. Chris mentioned last week that he had a dodgy spell against Karabakh in the Champions League and a dodgy spell against, who is it now? Goodness me. West Ham at left back when he had Badiashile and Garnacho playing on the left-hand side with him, and he was bloody awful because he had no backup and no help from them 2 idiots. But frankly, at the moment, I'm just sitting here going, where's our bottle? Chelsea fans keep saying that Arsenal got no bottle and all this nonsense. Well, what about our bottle? Maybe worry about our own fucking team. That's what really annoys me. Is this crap, like we're sitting there in some privileged position. What are we, 5th? Could go 6th tomorrow? Come on. You can't laugh at other people when your own team is getting fucking points at home to Burnley, points at home to Leeds, losing at home to Sunderland, losing at home to Villa. All these games you're ahead in, every single one of them, and you haven't won 1 game. It's embarrassing. And Liam Rosini is not a fault for any of that. Most of that was all down to Enzo Maresca and the system and stuff he was playing beforehand. But I'm sorry, enough's enough now, really. Enough is enough. And the fact is that I actually had quite high hopes for the side after the sort of the games that we've been playing. And I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm actually excited for what's going to happen in the next few weeks and months. I think Chelsea as a whole are a good side. I think we have got good players, like I've said. But this mentality thing has got to change. And the amount of red cards, like Chris said, that we've received this year is embarrassing. It's just not good enough. The dumbness in all of those red cards has been staggering. Yeah, God. Chris said he was unhappy or disappointed. I'm disappointed because I know this team can provide a lot better than we're giving. And yeah, that trip to Dubai now I thought might do them world of good, but like Chris said, I think they were still on the beach, some of them. Look, we'll leave it there. It's a point at home. I'm yet again exasperated. Oh, and somehow we've got to try and pick the bones out of what's going to happen next week. Oh, goodness me.
Morning after the night before, and how's my mood? I think still a little bit disappointed, and I think probably what I'm going to start with is Liam Rosini's quote. So I said yesterday when I did the voice note that I was hoping he'd come out and be honest, and I think he was. I think that's the positive thing about Liam Rosini. He didn't sugarcoat it. He said pretty much what Joe and I said yesterday, which is it's not good enough. And the 2 things he called out really were, number one, the fact that at 1-0, Chelsea didn't do enough to go and get the second goal as you should. And then he said, top teams, when you are 1-0 up and not playing well, you close it out and you win 1-0. And I thought he kind of nailed it really. And by all accounts, I'm trying to work it out. I've watched it back this morning. I'm sure others have as well. He said the reason the corner went wrong is someone picked up the wrong man, which left their best header of the ball, as he called it, free to score the goal, which is shambolic. He didn't name it. He didn't name the person. I'm trying to work out who it is. I have to say, Andre Santos doesn't look great on the replay. I mean, Andre Santos in that moment, by the way, he basically celebrates the tackle, which was a great tackle to put it out for a corner. And then he's basically stands on the penalty spot as you watch it. I don't know if it's his man, but he basically doesn't pick up anyone, and it's a free header. And it's really, really poor. Fair play. I mean, Liam Rosini is not going to call out who it was, rightly so, but yeah, not good. Not good at all. But I appreciate the fact that Rosini was clearly as pissed off, really, as we all were watching it. And he kind of called it, is that this isn't good enough. We basically gift-wrapped 4 points in the last 2 home games, and Chelsea had now dropped 17 points from winning positions this season at home, which is the most already since the 95-96 season. It's something I talked about in the last pod, actually. Good times, Ruud Gullit, etc. But it's just not good enough, is it? And it puts us, where we are, which is scrabbling around again, like Joe said, and looking at other results. And it's going to be a dogfight, I think, for the last 11 games. And what I realised looking at the fixtures is that is our, easy, in brackets, run over, and the next few games, I mean, they couldn't really much tougher on paper. So we're really going to get a sense of what we have as a group. I thought the other thing that Liam Rosini said, which was interesting, and it is maybe up for debate and discussion, is that he said he felt the only way that they would score was from a set piece. James Ward-Prowse coming on the pitch, he felt that was their threat. Explained the substitutions of Reece James and Pedro Neto, who both had sort of pulled up with issues. So he put a lot of height on the pitch to explain why he made the changes, with obviously Tosin, Achimpong and Mamadou Sarr all coming on. So I guess to an extent that makes sense. The argument the other way, and I'm sure Liam Rosini, if he could do it again, he might change it, because the nature of hindsight is 2020, etc. But the second we did that, it basically did invite pressure, and it just meant we were sat back, almost hoping we could grind our way through. And I guess with 3 minutes to go, if we had seen it out, it would have been, lap of honour, as they do after every game. It would have been like, well, high fives, and we've managed to, blag our way through the game. But you just sort of look at it and go, I wonder if we had been a little bit more brave and maybe put on, for example, a Garnacho, so you've still got a threat going forward. So rather than bringing off Neto and bringing on another centre-back, you bring on Garnacho, and so we've still got an out ball, we've still got a way to go. Does it give you something? But hey, it went the other way, and it's such a fine line, isn't it? It's such a fine line. If another 3 minutes had passed and we'd got away with it, we'd have gone, do you know what, we've shown a bit of character and a bit of grit, and we've held on. But in reality, it's unfortunately more of the same. And yeah, Joe said it right. He's talked about these centre backs. They're just not good enough, and you just look at it and think maybe there is a need more of a bit of a change and rotation needed in the summer. We're not saying get rid of everyone, but you kind of wouldn't mind, would you, if you saw 2 or 3 of these guys leave the club and be replaced? I watched a bit of the Man City game last night. Obviously, good win for them. I think most Chelsea fans, most of the country is kind of willing on them to do Arsenal. But as Joe said, let's focus on our own business. But I looked at City and was like looking at the signings like Semenyo, Mark Guéhi, Donnarumma, and none of them are clever signings, are they? They're not smart, genius moves in the market. They're not like, really clever. They've found a little angle here where they've seen something no one else has. They're really obvious signings. And yes, they're on very, very high wages. So it is a policy thing that Chelsea just probably wouldn't be in the market for these guys. But I looked at it yesterday, watching Mark Guéhi, and be like, what we wouldn't give for that. Just, this guy's come in, he's been Crystal Palace captain. He's there now in a title race with Man City. Doesn't look phased. And obviously Donnarumma has come in, and if City do win the league this year, he'll be a huge reason for that. In the same way that Cech and Peter Schmeichel was back in the day. He's been so big for them already this year. And I was just looking at it a little bit envious, thinking, oh, we used to be like that. We used to make signings like that where you'd probably the rest of the league were like, oh, that's a good signing from Chelsea. And I just sort of thought, sometimes I sugarcoat it a little bit, I think, and kind of go, oh, you know, we've got Mamadou Sarr. Maybe we don't need to worry too much in the summer with Colwell coming back and stuff. And you just look at it going, no, these problems are going to continue to come back unless Chelsea spend the money in the right areas and buy someone to really lead the team. And yeah, it's a longer pod, a longer conversation, but we will talk soon. I think we're going to do a bit of an international break special and look at the transfer business. And obviously what you have to say is that the business done in the summer is not going to come out looking too clever, is it? Let's face it, we haven't massively improved. And if we don't get Champions League, as Joe said, it will be a disaster because it's not a strong Premier League. It's the teams around us are not particularly strong. And Chelsea, in my mind, should really be comfortably third with what we've got. But we're not performing that level. So it's going to be a big few weeks ahead to see what Chelsea can do. On yesterday, I think like most of us, I just thought we'd moved on a little bit from this, and it felt like a bit of a one step forward, two steps back, and back to the familiar sort of side of what we are. I think a word on the atmosphere at the Bridge. We are nervous as a fan base. I feel it there. The buzz isn't what it was. I think that it needs a sparkle again. Football has changed. Stamford Bridge has changed. The nature of fans have changed a little bit. But at the moment, it just feels a bit flat. And I think you kind of felt that at the point that it was 1-0, it was nervy and it all sort of transmits itself to the pitch, doesn't it? And it wasn't good. And actually the final thing I want to say actually is on the West Fofana racism stuff. Chelsea have come out quite rightly with a really strong statement today about that. West Fofana himself shared basically some of the messages he was getting of abuse, and it's horrific. It's something none of us want to see. In my mind, they're not Chelsea fans. They're not proper fans. They are horrific, and it's pathetic in this day and age that this is still a thing that players have to deal with. Wes Fofana didn't cover himself in glory, as we said, on the football pitch, but the fact that these people are sending messages like that, I mean, I just want to say, like, on behalf of myself, I think it's a disgrace, and our support is always with Wes Fofana and with the club, and I think fair play to the club for coming out and being strong, because with Chelsea's background and history, it's so important that I think the club shows our sort of strong stance on these things and does it in the right way, which we have. But yeah, yet another reminder that football is still in the dark ages when it comes to things like that, which is very sad. But Joe, over to you. Let's lift our heads up, move forward, and, you know, we didn't lose. I'll leave us with that.
I think for myself, waking up today, I don't feel much different. My opinions haven't changed overnight on this one, I'm afraid. It's 2 drop points at home. And, yeah, as we said yesterday, it's not good enough. And, yeah, I don't really know where we go from here. I mean, if Chelsea were to beat, you know, Arsenal and Aston Villa, then all of this is sort of forgotten about. But you just sort of wonder what sort of performances they can realistically achieve at the moment. Obviously, Arsenal and Aston Villa are going to be 2 tough games. The only thing I will say is there's pressure on Arsenal and there's pressure on Villa. You know, they will be feeling it too. So if Chelsea were to go a goal down and then get a goal back, you know, the crowds switch again on those home teams, and that can have an effect on the crowd at Villa Park and at the Emirates, of course. But I think that aside, it's just more a case of you need to take care of your own business. And I sort of mentioned that Arsenal would drop points the other night to Wolves at home, and these things happen. You know, Wolves are terrible. They're an awful team. Burnley are basically on a par with them, quite frankly. And that's just, it's when I say unacceptable, it's not that you can't and you shouldn't drop points to these sides. It's the manner and the way we keep doing it. You know, one-offs happen. You know, you could argue that drawing at home to Burnley yesterday is okay if you beat Leeds. and if you win some of those other games that I mentioned yesterday, the Sunderlands and of this world, etc., we have got ourselves in this position, and it's because of our own doing. We've gone up in all these games and either been pegged back to draw or, even worse, lose the games. And let's say 17 home drop points is staggering. I mean, you can't see it changing. This is the trouble. When Chris mentions the atmosphere at the bridge there and everybody getting a little bit nervous, the trouble is it's hard. It seems really difficult for the place to get up. It's quite a low-key hum at the bridge these days. Gone are the days of the cheering, the singing and stuff. We used to pride ourselves on that, and unfortunately it's just not there these days. And we're not the only ones. Anfield is the same. The Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is the same. The Emirates is the same. There are lots of grounds where the moment it starts going wrong, instead of getting behind the team, there's a lot of mumbling and grumbling and basically disappointment that runs through the crowd, and that negative vibe also runs through the crowd. And do the players feed off of that? Probably to some degree. I think there is an element that the players do need to actually produce something on the field to make the crowd get going. Not in all cases, but certainly at times there does need, it needs to work from both sides. I think what we're sort of annoyed at really is Enzo Maresca's time at the club. Before the change, we saw all of this. So you see a performance that looks similar to that yesterday, and your mind can't really get out of it. You think, oh my God, this is not that Liam Rosenior's Enzo Maresca part 2. I don't mean that, but you get that sense of like, oh, God, is it going to happen again? Is this team going to actually evolve? Are they going to get out of this slumber, get out of their own heads and actually go and win a game by 2 or 3 goals, having gone up? And at the moment, we just seem to be stuck in this rut. And even if we go ahead, we don't seem to have any form of control. And the moment it starts going awry, and I don't just mean by goals going in, even if we give up lots of chances, there isn't anybody on the field that just goes, all right, we've had a bad 5 or 10 minutes, guys, but now it's our turn. Because in games of football, there's always going to be spells. Even the worst sides can come to the bridge. League 2 sides can come to the bridge and have a 10-minute spell where they have 3 or 4 corners in a row that you don't deal with properly, or their goalkeeper pumps the ball long for like a period and they win the first knockdown and they have a shot. And it looks a bit like you're not playing very well. But in all games of football, whether you've played professional level or at the bottom rung in the lowest league of Sunday morning football, right? Every team that's at the top of that division will have spells in a game where they struggle because it's just the nature of the game. Very, very rare do you play a match and you have it all your own way. But it's about turning those little negative moments and winning little things. So you kind of go, right, this is where people like Drogba were wonderful, because you could have a bad spell and Didier knew that. He's like, right, what I need to do here is nick a free kick. So what he often would do, he would feel that pressure and he would go down. You get a free kick on the halfway line. Breaks their momentum. And I think that we don't have enough players that do that. João Pedro does it to a degree. I think he's one that you would look at as someone that has got that in him. But the best strikers are the ones that can... Harry Kane is arguably the best at this in the world, actually. He feels that little bit of pressure, but you can't just go down. You have to have some kind of tug or trip or something. He gets a free kick, or they all push back, we all push up, and we start again. But that's where you need to kind of then take in control of the game and start putting your stamp back on it. And it could just be through passing. It could be through the manager slowing it all down and making a few substitutions. Oh, Neto's going to come off for Esteval on this occasion. And then in 30 seconds time, he makes another substitution. And what happens? The opposition who are chasing the game, they suddenly go, oh God, not another sub. When you make 3 subs in one go, I used to love that as a player, because you almost go into yourself, okay, they've made all their subs now, so there's going to be no breaks in play. Unless we make a sub ourselves, they can't do any more. So actually sometimes a manager needs to be a little bit cleverer. Instead of just going 3 subs in one go or 2 subs in one go, we're going to make them one by one. And that just takes all the sting out of the game. And often you hear it in the commentary a lot. You hear this all the time. All that momentum, say, that this particular side has on the day suddenly has gone because there's been a stoppage in play for an injury, someone goes down, holds their leg a little bit longer. And I'm not suggesting you want to cheat. This isn't cheating. But if you're a player and, as I just said, feeling that contact, you must then go, do you know what? I'll have the trainer on for a minute or two. Get the trainer, give someone else some fluids and some drinks. Maybe you get a message on the field from the physio. We're going to go 4 at the back here. We're going to go 5 at the back here. We're going to do long balls for the next 5 minutes. I don't want to see the ball go to the goalkeeper. Any little thing like that. And I think that's where we are still quite naive as a club. And we speak at youth and inexperience quite a lot in this podcast, and I'm sure other people do as well. I don't think that Chelsea are inexperienced in terms of the amount of games they've played. Now, you can't argue that Caicedo's inexperienced. He's not. He's got the knowledge and the know-how. You know, players like Cucurella, he's won the European Championships with Spain. These aren't stupid or inexperienced boys now. They have that knowledge, but it seems to be still that we have moments and even like 10 or 15 minute spells in matches where we just don't seem to play to those strengths. And it's almost like we try and play a too nice a game. Chelsea of old were a bit shithousery. You know, there's no doubt about it. And as my managers of the past have always said to me, is no one remembers the game at the end, but everybody remembers the result. And you can go back to 10 years ago, pick a game, and Chelsea won that 2-1. We might have been disgustingly poor in that match. We might have had a man sent off. We might have scored an own goal, whatever. Did we win? Yeah, they won 2-1. Nobody cares what you played like afterwards. We care as a fan base in the season that you're currently running in, because obviously with good performances often come good results. That's just the nature of the beast. If you play poorly enough too often, you're gonna drop points. And I think sometimes Chelsea yesterday, I was just looking at it thinking at 1-0, I think we're going to do this. I think we're going to get away with a 1-0. And I think had Fofana stayed on, I still don't think we would have scored a second goal. There's a chance we would have done, but I think we would have just about hung on at the end there. But that red card just swayed it too far the other way. And you just sensed then the players went, that's a negative thing. That's a negative point in the match. So what we must do now is play negative football. So what do? We bring defenders on. We approach the game by almost going, we're going to hold what we have. And as I've said this podcast more than once, if you bring more defenders on and take off your forward players, that in itself says to the opposition, right, they're just hoping to hang on now, so we can almost go for it. Cole Palmer coming off, and there's probably an injury there, or not an injury such, but there's probably a protection of injury going on there slightly. They're probably thinking, we're 1-0 up against Burnley. I think we can probably just about see this game out. Let's give Palmer 15 minutes off at the end of the match, because the last thing we really want him doing is chasing down every ball on his own up front, or certainly as part of a two, maybe a one-man midfield and a striker. So let's give him that moment. But it just sends the wrong message. You know, Scotty Parker would have seen that and gone, yeah, you know, if there's ever a chance we're going to get a goal against Chelsea here, and you can guarantee they've been in the change room talking about it. Okay, it's 1-0, boys, but look, let's keep it as, not obviously want to score earlier than this, of course, but can we keep it to 1-0, even to the last few minutes? And we never know, if we get a few corners or set pieces, we've always got a chance. Chelsea's record at defending set pieces is horrendous. We talk about Bruno Cueva a little bit on this podcast. Chris has defended him in saying that we've scored quite a lot of goals from set pieces this season, but that does not then mean that you get away with not talking about how many Chelsea goals we've conceded from set pieces and corners. And it's horrific. Like, it's absolutely horrific. So in my mind, you don't really need a set piece coach. In my eyes, and the way it's always been in football, and it's a bit of a new faddy thing, is that why can't Liam Rosenior and all the coaches that they supply and they pay, whilst they're having their toast and tea first thing on Monday morning, why are they not suggesting and talking about ways in which they can get around a defence? Because you play teams on their merit, right? You're going to play against Arsenal at the weekend, and you're going to be saying to yourself, right, they're very good at the back. They don't concede a lot from set pieces. They're big and strong. If we're going to score against them from a corner, maybe it's because we get some short corners going, or maybe because we'll try and hit the front post, because they often leave their smallest player at the front post, and that's an area we can get at. You need to look at little areas. You don't need someone on £100,000 a year or £250,000 a year to tell you that they've got a midget at the front post, so let's attack that space. I mean, it beggars belief. And I think that Chelsea, and we're not the only ones, there's loads of teams that do set piece coaches now. It's money for old rope. It's absolutely ridiculous. And Chris mentioned about this Bruno Cueva needing to almost like justify his salary by coming up with new set pieces and stuff. But unfortunately, that's what I say, that does almost extend to the defence and goalkeeper. You cannot get away with just going, well, we've scored some goals, but we've conceded loads as well. I'm sorry, the two don't go hand in hand. And if you're a good team, you want to be saying to yourself, right, this year, for example, we scored 10 goals from corners, right? If you got that, great. But we conceded 1. So from set pieces alone, we're 9 goals up. That's a fantastic return. Sometimes I think Chelsea have scored more than 10 goals from corners and set pieces, in fact. But they've conceded boatloads. If you score 17 and concede 16, that's not a great return. That's not a great return, I'm afraid. And again, I'm not going to go on at Bruno Cueva. I mean, he's going to stay there, isn't he? He wants to. This again, it's modern football. It's nonsense. But like I say, I won't ever be persuaded that having someone come in to talk about that sort of stuff when you've got 8, 9, 10 world-class coaches and a manager there who's been around the block and's got his own ideas, you're getting paid a lot of money to sift through that sort of stuff. And to me, that's part of your remit. To outsource that to somebody else is just utter nonsense. And it's a bit like the American football when you have offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators and head coaches and special teams coordinators. I get it in that sport because you've got about 58 players you've got to try and navigate through on the field at any one time. But within football, you're making the game, I think, far too difficult, in my personal opinion. Chris was sort of asking me about, off pod, had I played in teams with this sort of problem, with conceding from set pieces. I think if you always have teams, however good you are, where you have moments in seasons where perhaps you go through a stage where you do concede from corners or you do concede from, I say, deep crosses into the box perhaps. But I think I always played in sides that were very good aerially. I myself am about 6'3", always had a good leap on me, and I've always played with people who were of similar size, if not even bigger. So I think you sort of naturally just kind of say to yourself, that's my job. And I said that yesterday to you guys on the podcast about Tosin and whatnot. I think I maybe included Andre Santos. Your job at that moment in time, there is no other job to do. You haven't got to think about scoring a goal. You haven't got to think about creating a goal or passing out. Your job is to head it as far away as humanly possible. And if you can head it out for a throw-in or whatever, even better. If you have to concede a corner, at that moment again, at that precise moment, you have to do that. And I think that digging out Tosin, I think, in my opinion, is perfectly justified. I think that Andre Santos also does not cover himself in any glory. And at that moment there, if I'm the centre-back, I am screaming at my midfield player. If the guy scores running in like he does, you have to question the desire of that player. And I would be having it out, quite frankly. But this is modern football. This is what I'm saying. Everybody's too scared to hurt each other's feelings. Oh, I'm sorry, Andre Santos, he's a younger player. Fuck that. You're playing in Chelsea's first team. Like, this isn't kids' football no more. You've played enough first team games now. You can't just get plaudits all the time. If you make a mistake, you need telling, because against Arsenal, if he lets him go again, then are we going to just say that's okay again? You don't mind. The thing is, you don't mind if the player goes with him and he beats him. That's a different story. That's a totally different story. You can look at the player and say, he beat me in the air. He got the run on me. But to be in 30 yards of space of clear air is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm sorry, I will never, that's unforgivable. And sometimes in football, people want to overcomplicate everything. You just have to say, no, unfortunately, that is all about heart and desire and getting in there and being prepared that you might have to go and get your head hurt or your chest hurt or your foot hurt, put your leg in where you don't want to. Again, we've all seen that clip of John Terry going in the League Cup final, was it in 2005 or something, when he tried to head the ball on the floor because he couldn't get up in time. Again, I wouldn't expect anybody to do that from a yard, but do you know what? That's a sort of the mark of the man, is that nobody is going to score a goal past me. And the reason it's sort of become a bit of a running joke, isn't it, about teams trying to break the Chelsea record, or was it 15 goals conceded in the season? And Arsenal, obviously, I think it was broken a few weeks ago. They considered their 16th goal after, was it January or sometime, and John Terry breaking out a bottle of champagne or whatever. It's a joke. It's a running joke, really. No one really cares. But at the same time, it shows you what that team and mentality was. You have to have it within the group. And the trouble is, when you change centre-backs every single match, you can't celebrate that glory. You can. John Terry mentions Peter Cech, he mentions Carvalho, I think he mentions Terry, maybe Ashley Cole. I forget the 4 defenders and the goalkeeper exactly, but I think they were the 5 that were involved. They would probably high-five each other and WhatsApp each other and say, they didn't break our record, boys, because they would have played 37 or 38 games that season. I'm being a little bit silly there. It might have been 35, could have been 34. But they as a team would have played that many games together. So you go, that was our record. When Chelsea are playing 6 centre-halves every 3 games and the fullbacks change every week and you've got right-backs playing in left-back positions and younger players coming in to play, like Hato, okay, he's a signing, but he's a younger player coming in from a different team. He plays some weeks and then Gusto goes over there sometimes and then we play a different goalkeeper because Jorgensen needs a few minutes. So he comes in and plays for Sanchez sometimes, whatever. It's this constant fiddling around from managers that doesn't make that sense of clean sheets stay amongst a tight-knit group. It's almost like open to 10 players when really it should be open to 5. And if you have it nice and skinny and you have that sort of group of players that are like fighting, they're going like, oh, it becomes a game in itself. Can we keep a clean sheet again today? Because we might break the record. And that's what Gabriel and Saliba have been doing with Ray and obviously Calafiore and I think Uriel Timber. That's what they're thinking in their mind. Can we keep another clean sheet today? And you can see in their faces. I'm not up for these defenders, and Chelsea have got some as well, where they make a tackle and the other team gets a corner and we celebrate it like it's a goal. That to me is utter woke bollocks. But the sentiment is the same. They, as a back 5, are going, we've conceded another clean sheet today. That's brilliant. That's wonderful. Can we get another one next week? And they're doing it because they're the same players that play every single week. And until Chelsea are prepared to go and sort of play, even if there's like maybe 6 of you, there's an extra one that gets floated around, an extra fullback maybe, then you will find that they will be a lot more prouder of that singular achievement every single week. But like I say, too many changes, centre-backs aren't good enough. It's just, said it too many times, and unfortunately, it's true. As for the game, there's nothing else to say really. We've dropped 2 points again. Bitterly disappointed. There's nothing we can do about it as a fan base. There's nothing we can do about it on this podcast apart from try and make some kind of sense of it. I think we've given a lot of good insights on the game there. I think we've been semi-brutal. I think we've been very fair. I don't think you can really complain as a top player and concede as many goals as we do and not be sort of pulled up on it to some degree. And as Chris said, Liam Rosenior is feeling the same way as we are. So it isn't just a thing of Chelsea fans or Chelsea podcasts getting the hump with their side. If the manager of the club is feeling like that, then that says to me that he feels like he's one of us, which I admire a lot. We shall be back to review the Arsenal game, and that is going to be a big one. And fingers crossed, we don't know how are they going to go today. At time of recording, they haven't kicked off yet, but yeah, if they don't get a result against Spurs today, they will be really feeling the pressure, and I think that is a great chance for Chelsea to go and attack them. But we shall see what happens, and we'll be back during the week. And just before I go, if we can nudge you guys for a reminder, if you haven't given us a 5-star review, we would really, duly love it. It helps us gain momentum in the charts. We move up places. More people can find us. And from the emails and Instagram messages that we receive, we know that we're doing something right. We know you guys are enjoying what we're doing and what we're putting out there. And that's where we need your help, because the more that you can help us, the more we can do. We can put more content out there. And if you haven't told your friends, please tell your mates, about it. If you're enjoying the podcast, I'm sure they probably would too. This is how Chris and I started. We listened to lots of podcasts. We would share our favourite ones that we liked, and we would obviously recommend the ones that we didn't. And there were plenty of those out there. And it's just really, really important that we can keep this momentum going. And if you've got an idea, or if you have some kind of question you'd like to ask us, please fire away, because we love getting your responses. And quite frankly, the one we had in the week from a guy called Michael Mimmers, he sent us a couple of emails now, and we spoke about our Chelsea journey slightly, the way we got into Chelsea on the last podcast, and he listened to that and he decided to share his view, and it was brilliant to read that. And we really appreciate anybody who gets in contact and wants to share their story, because it's fantastic to listen to. So once again, a huge thank you to everybody that listens and has liked and subscribed and etc. But the more anybody can do for us, we are eternally grateful. So up the Blues, and we'll see you next week.
Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be all right.